There's been a lot of crazy paranormal experiences in my life, mainly because I was raised in a family of Satanists. Now, don't get Satanists and pagans confused. Pagans are people who believe in multiple gods, right? Gods of the earth, the sun, the forest. Satanists are people who believe in Lucifer. And just because you're a pagan doesn't mean you don't have a firm moral stance on things. But as a Satanist, morals are more flexible. They bend to the whims of each individual. Now, my parents were fucked up, immoral people. And to this day, I've had to spend thousands of dollars on therapy in an attempt to undo some of the trauma that I experienced being raised in a house with them. The earliest thing I remember is being given a puppy. My parents would not allow me to name this puppy, so I called it V, only because it had this V-shaped birthmark on its belly. One night, they wake me up and tell me to come outside. I had to be no more than 10, 11 years old. My mom is holding a knife. My dad walks out with V and tells me to kill him. He wanted me to slit the dog's throat. Knife in my hand, V being held down. I couldn't do it. Something in me said it was wrong. And that was just the start of the traumatic things that happened to me. You know when you hear about child pedophilia rings being rolled up and people being arrested? Let me tell you, it's true. 100% true. When I was 13 years old was the first time that I felt strong enough to reject that type of activity and fight for myself. That particular night, I ended up stabbing a man who was attempting to rape me and running away from home. This led to me being homeless until I was 15 years old, literally on the streets, selling drugs, doing anything to survive, until I met this woman who had recently lost her son, and she decided to help me. She homeschooled me, fed me, nurtured me. But we didn't realize that when she actually went to put me back into the school system, it would alert my parents. And the next thing you know, the police have swatted her house, and the poor woman gets arrested for kidnapping. Now, I'm at the police station. My parents are there pretending like they miss me. And I tell the police what they did. I tell the police everything that they did, but they don't believe me. Hours later, I find myself in the backseat of my parents' car. And have you ever had that feeling that you were going to die? You know, deep down in your heart and your soul that you're going to die? That's the feeling that came over me. So I jumped out of their moving car going 45 miles an hour, hit the ground, rolled, and took off into the woods. Knowing that I couldn't go back to Mama Chambers because they would find me there, I lived on the streets homeless until my 18th birthday, eating from trash cans, fighting off other homeless people, selling drugs, prostitution, you name it, I did it until I was 18. But when I was 18 years old, I returned back to Miss Chambers and she welcomed me with open arms. And from that day, my life changed. Now, as for my parents, they were arrested for being part of a child pedophilia and pornography ring. And when the time came, Miss Chambers and I went to court and testified against them. And God, you should have seen the look on my father's face, the look in his eyes as I sat on that stand, telling that judge every minute detail of the things that they did to me. A look that I had seen so many times as a young kid. The look of a murderer. Months after they were sentenced, Miss Chambers and I received a letter learning that my father was murdered in prison and that my mother had been beaten into a coma. Now, if you're listening to this story, don't feel sorry for them. They were evil. And the only reason why I allow this small private portion of my life to be shared with you, the public, because I want you to know. I want you to know that this is real, that it exists, and that there are people out here harming and hurting children. So if you run across something like this, do whatever you can to save that child's life.